First things first, the Packers have won 7 straight. Their tight end, Mercedes Lewis, will join us in a little bit to preview a huge matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs. Rams made another blockbuster deal yesterday, acquiring Von Miller. Do they now have the scariest defense of all time? The door is open for Taysom Hill to start on Sunday, Nick.
Yeah, it is.
Your guy, Taysom. And with that, we say good Tuesday morning, everyone. First things first, Jenna Wolf, Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Chris Broussard.
Yeah, Kevin.
Taysom, give Taysom one more shot, Nick. Give him one more shot. They might actually make the playoffs with this guy this year.
Oh, well, he's going to have more than one more shot. And listen, I like videos of, like seals on a tricycle. I like when people are out of their element. So anytime you get to see Taysom Hill play quarterback, it's exciting. You haven't seen the seal tricycle video, Wilds? Google it. It's outstanding. No. I like seeing guys do things that aren't natural to them. Yeah, it's true. Look it up.
Oh, Nick.
Monday Night Football. You won't have to look it up. Watch it right here. Giants, Chiefs at Arrowhead.
Oh, that's a good
This was an ugly one. Don't owe us, Nick. What should have been a get-right game for KC was a get-by game, as in they literally did just enough to get by a terrible Giants team. KC committed 12 penalties for 103 yards. The once unstoppable Chiefs offense turned it over multiple times for the 4th straight game. Patrick Mahomes, 275 yards, a touchdown, another pick. League-leading 10th of the season. Let me say it again in case I stuttered at all. League-leading. He leads the league, 10th of the season. Chiefs barely beat the Giants last night. 20-17 was your final. Here was Patrick Mahomes after the win.
It's execution. I mean, I know I say it all the time, but we have guys open, and if we're on the same page with me and the receivers with the routes, and then I throw it and hit the right spot, we can move the ball on pretty much any coverage. We have answers for versus everything, but that we've had, you've seen in every game pretty much that there's been times where we kind of stall out and we don't execute, or I throw the ball or I don't hit the right spot, or the receiver doesn't see it the same way that I do, or penalties or turnovers. So I mean, I know in this league it's kind of showing that it's kind of happened week after week these last few weeks, but I think we're going to snap out of it and we'll find a way to start executing, and then when we do, we'll be a tough offense to stop.
If I didn't know any better listening to that, I'd have thought they actually lost the game. But, Nick, they won, and a win's a win. So yeah. I have to ask, were you impressed with last night's win over the Giants, I say in my upper register?
Well, that's so funny you say that, Jenna, because the way you felt listening to Mahomes is the way I felt, and America felt, I'm sure, listening to your introduction. All these terrible things the Chiefs did, all the terrible play, the terrible numbers, yet you wake up this morning after a late Monday Night Football game, and you're like, oh, they won. So it's a little maybe misleading for folks that are just waking up to us. But yes, the Chiefs did win a professional football game. And listen, the other guys get paid too, America. And that New York Giants team's a little better than the record suggests. I've said this all along. Joe Judge, it's a tough coach, kind of going in the right direction. And I'm just telling you, it's a good defense. It's a good defense. Oh, I don't know. Look at the Giants. All they did is beat Broussard's beloved New Orleans Saints. So was I impressed with the Chiefs yesterday? No, I was not impressed. Was that game closer than it should have been? Of course, it was closer than it should have been because the Chiefs are far better than they've shown over these first 2 months. But now we are at a very nice point in the season where we no longer have an exact midway point because of the 17 games, but 8 games still feels like it. So there's a team in the NFL, and I'll tell you, the team's the Chiefs. They, through the first half of the year, for part of it, had a historically bad defense. Same team is on a historically high turnover rate throughout the season. As Jenna mentioned, multiple turnovers seemingly every week. Their quarterback, who going into the year was the unanimously considered best player in football, #1 ranking on the NFL 100 list, after in his first 3 years of football was held under 21 3 times in 3 years, has been held under 21 3 times in the last 4 games. And, oh yeah, by the way, they played a brutal schedule. The Chargers, the Titans, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bills. basically every good team in the AFC aside from the Raiders and Bengals, who are coming up later. And despite all of that, Broussard, they sit there at 4-4. A game out of first place in the division. The same number of wins as the Chargers. Same number of wins as the Browns, as the Patriots, who Wilds is so excited about, who you guys explained to me yesterday about how the Patriots are dangerous. The 4-win Patriots are dangerous. And so while, Broussard, I was not impressed with the Chiefs yesterday, here's what I do know. They play the Green Bay Packers on Sunday. They are favorites in that game. Slim favorites, but favorites nonetheless. And if they win that game, then all of a sudden they're playing the Raiders for first place in the division, and all is forgotten. They somehow survived what was the worst month of defense of the Mahomes era, which was followed immediately by the worst month of offense of the Mahomes era. Despite all of that, they're 4-4. Fresh start, game out of first place. So no, I wasn't impressed last night, but I am hopeful and optimistic about the rest of the year, my friend.
That was impressive, Nick. I mean, the mental gymnastics, the verbal gymnastics you just put us through. I feel like I was following you on a maze, man. That was impressive. And look, I like to make fun of Nick and his Chiefs. But Nick will remind you, and I'm going to go ahead and remind you before he does, I also picked the Chiefs to reach the Super Bowl. So I've got skin in this game as well. All right, so I'm hoping for a turnaround myself. But I like Nick, no, you couldn't be impressed with this. All right? Not in the least bit impressed. All right? It looked last night like two bad football teams playing. That's really what it looked like.
Correct.
It was a dull game. It looked like two bad teams. And Nick, you mentioned the Packers. If the Chiefs play this way against Green Bay, Las Vegas, and Dallas, their next 3 games, they'll lose all 3, and their season may be over. All right, they had 12 penalties, 2 bad turnovers, 4 times they punted against a bottom 10 defense in the NFL. They scored 6 second-half points. This was bad. And if it wasn't for an O'Shane Zimenez offsides, then that last drive in which they kicked the game-winning field goal may end in another interception, and they lose the game.
I have to jump in. Hold on, because this is the same thing the broadcast was doing. If the Manning cast got it right, the main broadcast didn't. We all have to acknowledge, Mahomes, you can see it. He sees the guy jumps. He's looking at the ref to see that he throws the flag and knows he has a free play. The broadcast was trying to act as if that pick would have been thrown no matter what. Hold on. Broussard, Wild just being condescending. That's fine. I get it. I understand it. We all know, Broussard, do you agree with me that Mahomes did that knowing that the flag had been thrown? Tell me. I thought it was obvious. Peyton thought it was obvious.
Okay, maybe. All right, but obviously he's made some bad decisions. That would have just been yet another one. So then there's the taunting call. There's a taunting call on the Giants player as well that helped out the Chiefs. So the bottom line is they didn't play well. Now, Nick, I'm going to end on a high note. All right, and I'll toss it to you next, Wilds. There were some positives. Patrick Mahomes did take the checkdowns, right? He completed 15 passes behind the line of scrimmage. That's the most since 2016. People may mock that, but the fact is, it was showing growth in him. I mean, he didn't force the long ball because the defense wasn't giving him. For the first time this year, he kind of took what the defense gave him. He took the check down. It didn't look great. It didn't look Mahomes-esque. But it was ultimately effective. And then, Wilds, it took them 59 minutes. But finally, Frank Clark and Chris Jones responded to the Bud list. And they got those sacks at the end of the game in the Giants' last possession. They thwarted what would have been maybe a game-winning possession or game-time possession. Or Frank Clark's first sack. So those are the positives, Wilds. I want to end on a good note.
I
know Andy Reid at halftime went in and showed the clip of the Bud list, and Frank Clark's like, "Ooh, we got to get to Daniel Jones." And just real quick, Nick, I wasn't trying to be sarcastic at all. I think that it was a free play for Mahomes. He obviously saw the flag, and he hadn't thrown an interception in about 90 minutes. So he's like, "Oh, free play. Let me get some interception practice." And he gave one to the Giants.